Hello everyone and welcome to our Kidspot Live. It's Emily Blatchford here, Deputy Editor of Kidspot, and I'm very fortunate today to be joined by Detective Superintendent Paula Hudson for the Australian Federal Police. And we're here to talk about it's National Child Protection Week, and we want to shine a light on the disturbing issue and something that lots of parents I know are very concerned about, and that is online child exploitation. So, Superintendent, what can you tell us about National Child Protection Week? What are we trying to achieve with this week?
Yeah, thanks, Emily. Well, what I can say to you is that, yes, this week is National Child Protection Week. It's actually the 30th anniversary. That's how long it's been going for. And what it's designed for, it's a week to remind all Australians across the community, no matter what you do, that it's time that we put children first, which is the theme this year. And we work together to ensure the safety and well-being of our children.
Absolutely. And in terms of, I think when people think of, the online world and what can happen to their children, it's a very scary thing. But so what kind of things do you actually see? What sort of cases come to you?
Yeah, well, here at the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation, which is a centre which was established 2 years ago by the Minister for Home Affairs. And essentially we are the one-stop shop for Australia and receiving all reports of online child exploitation. So we're in a very good position to let everybody here know what we see. What I can say about that is what we are seeing, unfortunately, is a insatiable appetite for child exploitation material. We received, this financial year, we've received 21,000 reports of child exploitation. And what's important to know is that, involved in each one of those reports can be thousands and hundreds of images involved. Last year we received 14,000, so you can see that that's a significant increase in what we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and typically we're seeing a lot of reports coming have been increased from members of the public. This time last year, April, May, June, it's been increased to 122%. So on a positive note, people are reporting to us more about what's happening online to their children.
And do you think that's anything to do with COVID? Because I know that kids have always been interested, or certainly kids that I know have grown up with the online world, and that has advanced in leaps and bounds. But especially recently, we've seen online classrooms and all sorts of things. Children in Victoria today are doing all of their schooling from home, basically. So is that increased online activity providing more risk to our children?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Emily. What our experiences in here, in Australia, is what has been experienced internationally also. What is happening since COVID, obviously, everyone is spending more time at home due to lockdowns. And when I say everybody, that means children, and that means the offenders. So in increasing in the online activities, the homeschooling as well, of course, but also recognising that, parents are tired. We've been going through this for months now, and so supervision is probably, lacking a bit as they, think their children might be actually doing the schoolwork online or whatnot. So it has created a perfect storm for the crime of child exploitation online, with more offenders taking advantage of the situation and exploiting children being online and being on online applications. We certainly, I can say that we are seeing across the clear net and the dark net, predators discussing the COVID situation, and that it's giving them many more opportunities to, exploit vulnerable children and opportunities to do so. So we are seeing that perfect storm or that environment.
And so when you said before, just for people who may not know, the clear net and the dark net, what are we talking about there?
Yeah, so the clear net, that's essentially, what people like, everyday people that do. You look up the news, you do your banking, you do your emails, social media, general social media platforms. So that's just what's known as the clear net. The dark net is another part of the internet which is not so good. It's an area which is characterised by anonymising tools and anonymises and makes people essentially untraceable in what they're doing in that space.
Of course, which is terrifying. And just looping back, Superintendent, I just want to say thank you for saying that parents are fatigued, because they are. And I think that there's so many parents want to be able just to hand over the iPad and say, do your work. I'm going to have a cup of tea. And, having children at home with you 24/7, it's not easy. So in terms, and I can understand that you were trying to give them peace of mind, which is so important. And thank you for that work. Now, in terms of, because I guess what parents are most concerned about to begin with is how these offenders are finding our children to begin with. How are they getting in touch with them?
Yeah, so what we're typically seeing and now reporting, offenders are using all forms of social media platforms, not just social media platforms, but gaming applications that kids use. So they're using those platforms to connect through the messenger application, direct messenger systems. They connect that way, build rapport immediately, and then lure the children offline out of those platforms onto other platforms to directly communicate. That could be via text messages or emails or whatnot. So they are using everyday applications to connect. I guess the significant trend that we see is that the offenders are posing as other identities. So most commonly they'll be posing as a female, teens, and offering could be fake modelling contracts, but they're obviously disguising who they actually are in reality, and posing as someone else to create that rapport and initiate that conversation and then take them offline.
And it's funny because, you'd think, well, I would imagine that if I was a 13-year-old girl, I would be able to immediately say, this person's not another 13-year-old girl. They're not talking the talk. I could spot this person a mile away, but that's not the case, is it?
Yeah, no, and unfortunately, that's what these predators do that's their existence. They scroll these applications, they learn the lingo, the latest sayings and words to come across as authentic. You can't distinguish, you can't determine, so you need to be very careful and know exactly who you're talking to.
Sure. And I know you mentioned before about modelling. Now, this is a bit before my time as a high school, but we've also seen the rise of the social influencer. Is that something that is used as some kind of bait or enticing thing for young girls in particular, I'd imagine?
Yeah, and what I can say there is too, with the social media platforms encouraging as many likes as you can and to be popular. Absolutely, it is the way that people groom children can be groomed in a matter of minutes, and they play the vanity card for kids and parents. What I would say is that supervision is key. Know what your children are doing online, what apps they're using, and what platforms they're on.
For sure, a matter of minutes. That's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yes, yep. It just takes that conversation.
This makes me think you can turn your back and, something untoward could be happening. So supervision is key, you're saying. So how do parents, and I want to stress this, I guess, realistically supervise their children online? Because it's tricky, and teens especially can be sneaky.
That's right. And the issue is that kids are blackmailed into producing more images, and it can spiral out of control, before you know it. I think what I would say is, as I say, supervision is key, but what makes that easier is having open conversations. That's our second top tip. Have an open conversation with your children about what they're doing. Be approachable. And, one of the greatest resources and to assist you if you find it difficult to have the conversation, with your children, because one thing, was beginning this year, ACE Market Research found that only 52% of parents and caregivers actually have the conversation and know what their children are doing online. So one of the things that we've developed to, I guess, enable that conversation to take place is the Think You Know 7-day online safety challenge, and you can find that at our website. What I would say is that safety challenge is a 7-day, one task a day, simple to do, and it starts the first day with make a family contract. Make a contract with the family about what you're going to do and how you talk about what you do online. So it will initiate the conversation, help you initiate that conversation with your children and make that easier.
Right, yeah, because I'm sure it can be daunting for parents as well to broach this kind of stuff, especially when some of them perhaps might not feel as familiar with the technology as it's advancing so rapidly, like TikTok, that's just blown up. And, you know, I think TikTok is something for a lot of parents my age. Facebook has been around since forever or whatnot, but these newer platforms are difficult to sort of get your head around. Would you have any advice around that? Are those platforms safe?
Yeah, well, all apps have their pros and cons. There's no doubt about that. However, you know, what we would say is that every application equally that has direct messaging is not, you know, they are equally unsafe or safe. I guess the key to it is to know what those platforms are. That's the second day in the challenge is know what the privacy settings are and know how to block. That is the key. So one of a very good resource that can help take you through that is another partner of AFP and the ACE, which is the Carly Ryan Foundation, their website. You go to their website, they have a resource button, and on that resource they have a fact sheet on every application of social media and gaming, and that one-page fact sheets will tell you how to ensure the privacy settings are set, where the blocking applications are on each of those gaming or social media platforms. It's really about, it's not about that actual application or the game that's a good or a bad thing. It's just knowing how to make sure the privacy settings are set, or to block people from being able to direct message your children.
Yeah, for sure. And something I think that I'd be interested to know is, what are the signs of grooming in your child? Are there things to look out for or to spot? Because as you mentioned before, it can happen so quickly. How do you know from one day to the next if something's happened that night?
Yeah, that's right. And as I said before, a child can be groomed in minutes. So absolutely, it can happen instantaneously. I guess one of the methods of operations of these online child sex offenders is to make children feel bad immediately. So once they elicit conversation or taking images, it makes them feel ashamed, and it makes them feel, I guess, more blackmailed. They're going to get in trouble. So what your signs are, what you're looking out for, therefore, as a parent, is that shift in the mood in your child, that shift in behaviour, maybe having trouble sleeping, things that are out of character for them. They will feel nervous and anxious about what's happening. So you're looking for those behaviours which shift, show that something's changed. But you need to then, if they're acting out of character, you need to then be open with your child. Don't confiscate the device. That's not the way to deal with it, because that is probably the reason also why they're not wouldn't be open to you. So we don't recommend that. Mm-hmm. The message is what we need to say to children. What I would say to children and what parents should say is that nothing is that bad that we can't work through, and that it may be complicated and may be difficult, but we can work through it together before the online world becomes the real world. The dangers of grooming is that, we see cases, and, just last week there was one in South Australia where, a 14-year-old girl was groomed to meet what she thought was another teenager, but was an adult male at a train station. So, we need to get to them before it reaches any that stage.
And would that be often the end goal, to take this online relationship offline?
Yeah, obviously that varies. Clearly that is an end goal of some, but it depends on the motivation of the predator. The motivations can be just online images and explicit, encouraging them to self-produce material. Maybe all they need, and remembering that some of these offenders could be anywhere in the world. It's not, so the end goal may not be a physical meeting. It would just be to get the sexually explicit images out of the children.
Fantastic. And in terms of, I guess, what you guys are doing to sort of combat this issue, can you talk me through those steps?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And what I would say, people need to know our officers here are working day and night, 24/7, across both the ClearNet and the dark web. They use a range of methods and technologies to work to de-anonymise these child sex offenders who are exchanging, transmitting, or grooming online child exploitation material, and we have stepped up those policing across the clear and dark net. On the front line, what I would say is that on a near daily basis, our members, our police, and the joint anti-child exploitation teams, which are located in every city around Australia, they are on a near daily basis doing search warrants and going through people's doors and making arrests. So, our message to offenders are, we will de-anonymise you, we will track you down, and you will be prosecuted.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I just would like to say is that additionally, we are also producing online resource materials, be that ourselves through the Think You Know website, which contains a lot of online resources, 7-day safety challenge, including, and also we are producing those materials to give parents and caregivers the real tools as to how they can practically, safeguard their children. So not only are we actively investigating, but we're giving people in the community the tools as to keep children safer online.
Fantastic. And parents are obviously able to access those resources and implement them as they see fit.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, our main ones are Think You Know website. We've got tools in relation to specifically online grooming, packages on image-based abuse or sex extortion. So that is our main resource kit.
Okay, fantastic. And looping, I liked what you were sort of saying before about having the conversation with your child, whether that's if you suspect any sort of behaviour is going on or whether it's more preventative discussion about removing the judgment and removing the punishment. Can you talk to a bit more about that and why that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important because that's about that. It's about the trust and the non-judgment. I think. What we recommend is that the conversations that's had is around, showing them that taking away their devices, that is not the answer, because the reality is it's an online world, and school has moved to virtually and online, so we expect them to do school online. That's how we operate, but it's about being able to have that, that trusted conversation that, people out there on the internet, there are people that are seeking to do us harm, and, we say, you teach your kids about, crossing the road or, safety of stranger danger and the reality. Well, the same goes for the online world, keeping your kids safe online.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you have anything else to add?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, kids are, it's a social world, and you have your social lives out there, and, we need to be able to allow, them to do that, but just know that having that conversation, without that judgment and that they're going to get in trouble or device is going to be removed is not the way to approach it.
Yeah, sure. And I guess we've been talking a lot about, when I think of these issues, my head immediately goes to tweens and teens, but are children younger than that at risk also? When should we start thinking about this with our children and having those perhaps early conversations?
Yeah, absolutely, as early as possible. The reality is kids are online at a very, very early age. So there's recently we launched, or the Minister actually launched an app called Playing It Safe. The AFP, in conjunction with the Alana and Madeline Foundation and eSafety, did a online safety app for children as young as 4. So that's a really good resource to use at that early age, and it's game-based, playing about who your safety nets to go to. So it's a really early conversation to be had, and the earlier that you have it, the less difficult it will become into the teens. So if we start now with the early conversations, it will become normal as they grow older into their teens, and rather than what sort of, I guess, we're facing at the moment, where we're confronted with the teenage, if we'd got in early, so that we're learning that lesson, and then let's get out there earlier rather than later and make that a normal part of our online game playing.
Wow, my daughter is 4 next month, and that terrifies me. But no, it's good to know. It's good to know that you have to have these conversations much earlier than you'd anticipate. How would you talk to a 4-year-old about it?
Well, as I said, exactly as I said, the Playing It Safe app again is a great resource to initiate those conversations, and that's what it does. You definitely need to supervise their activity. That goes without saying. But if you use some of the applications, Playing It Safe, it will take you through that, how you have those conversations, and always be in the room with them when they're online. That is, that's a critical thing.
Well, I guess that's one thing lockdown is doing for us, isn't it? We're all together.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And don't let kids take their devices to their bedrooms, and everything we're doing online, they should be able to do in the open open space in the house.
Okay, so, and let's say that your child does come to you and say, look, I've seen something online that I'm not sure is quite right. What are next steps then?
Yeah, okay, well, exactly that. So be approachable straight away, and let's have a look what it is. And what I would say is that if you think something has occurred or it's suspicious, immediately, collect the evidence of it. Take screenshots, write down the URLs and websites and platforms, and then what I would do is we block that or block the user. And then the next key thing is know how to report. If something goes wrong online, you do those, collect the evidence, and then know how to report. Go to the ACE website or Think and go to report an abuse button, and it's as simple as that. And report what you've just collected. You can never be too sure. We'd rather receive 1,000 more reports of that things that don't eventuate to an online child sexual abuse situation than not receive reports at all. So you can never, we've never received too many.
Okay, that's really, really good to know. So anything dodgy, don't worry about appearing silly.
Yes.
But get online and...
Yep, err on the side of caution.
Okay, fantastic. And I guess other things I'd want to talk about in terms of offenders is, are they all after different things and accessing on multiple different platforms? Is it kind of like this huge spider web out there to navigate, or are some places of the internet more risky than others?
In the sense of children online safety, it's all the same level of risk in that sense. I certainly wouldn't say, it's different places of the net are more risky. The reality is, the risk is there amongst, as I said, all social media platforms and applications, games, all the games that they play. The risk is there, and unfortunately, our reporting level of reports and that we receive, and what our officers are seeing across the net, the dark net, the clear net, yeah, the risk is there and it's insatiable, and you need to be vigilant and alert. There's no way of sugarcoating that. Predators are out there looking to engage vulnerable children and create new exploitation material to them. Some of them, it's a competition that who can produce the more material, who can get more victims. Unfortunately, it's as sick as it sounds, that's the reality of it. It's not just kids at risk overseas or in Australia they're targeting. It's happening. The World Wide Web is global. So.
Okay, and talk to me about gaming, because obviously my children are young. I don't have any gaming kids. How is the risk to children who are really into Fortnite and all the rest? How's that working for them?
Yeah, and I mean, once again, of course, those games have the direct messaging and chat functions. So you need to be wary of those chat functions. Go into those gaming apps regularly and supervise what's being, what they're talking about in there with the other gamers. It certainly, opens up those communication lines directly, and they don't know who they're talking to. They don't know who they're really online with. So it is the same, again, level of risk, and it's like an open door into your child's bedroom or into your house.
Okay, that's a good point. And just once again, I want to re-stress I've got a couple of things I'd like to loop back over just in case people have joined us later on in the piece. What are some of the warning signs that perhaps children should look out for when liaising with someone online? I know we've said don't talk to people you don't know, etc., but let's say that they are. What behaviours should spark red flags for them and that this person isn't legitimate and I need to talk to mum and dad?
Yeah, they certainly need to be wary of approaches from people that they don't know that are complimentary, offering them fake modelling, offering them opportunities to raise their online profile, opportunities to asking them to move to another platform to talk is another major warning sign. People that they don't know that are approaching them, and then, as I say, rapidly wanting them to move to another platform. For parents, what you're looking for in your children, as I said, they can be groomed in a matter of minutes, is you're looking for a change in mood, a change in character, and that they are feeling like something has happened. So you need to be ready to be approachable. These people will be pushy, they'll be asking for photos, and it will come very fast. And, it can take, as I say, it can take place in a matter of minutes. So our key, my key messages are, we have 5 sort of top tips. Supervision is essential. Know what they're doing online, what your kids are doing online. Have the open conversation and have that conversation often. If you find it difficult to have the conversation, use online resources such as the 7-Day Safety Challenge to help you initiate those conversations. Mm-hmm. Check your privacy settings, know what they're doing in their apps, and be approachable. And lastly, know how to report and know where to report to if you think something has happened online to your children.
Fantastic. And I just want to, these other platforms that you speak of, what are these other platforms in case? Are there any ones in particular, or are they many and varied?
Are you meaning when I say they take them away from? Okay. Well, I guess what I mean by that is that if they've initiated a chat inside a game or on a social media platform, they may here's my number. Can we now start text messaging each other directly, or can we now start email? So we're taking them away from the forum that they met in, and then to a private one-on-one forum. So that, as you know, could be a different WhatsApp, can be Messenger.
Yeah, sure. And throwing right back to the beginning of a conversation, I've just thought of a question now. Pardon me. You've mentioned that it was a really good idea for families to write a contract together. Yes. What are some of the key things that you would outline in that contract?
So one of the things that we created, the 7-day online safety challenge, and the first day of the safety is creating the family contract. That was developed by, I think the Carly Ryan Foundation, and it helps you manage what what you will do and what you'll talk about, when you will have the conversation, when you think something, for the children, when that conversation will be initiated in relation to what they're doing online. And, and that could be things like when you go online, you're only online when you're supervised or in certain hours, and what applications you will use. So, but it's really, I guess it's suited to that family. That's why it's a family contract, but it's about establishing those boundaries and rules to start with, and then sticking to that contract.
Not taking your phone to bed with you at night, that kind of thing, I imagine. Those very easy to implement rules. Okay, fantastic. Are there any kids apps that you would say do not need to be worried about, that are just safe through and through, or does all online activity require supervision?
No, all online activity needs supervision, because as they all have pros and cons. As I said, it's really about knowing each of those applications and knowing how to make them safer through privacy settings and blocking methods. So we need to protect our children when they're online through any application that they're on, and it's just about knowing each of those applications.
Sure, absolutely. And, I was just thinking, we've had a bit of a scary chat about the internet today, but I know that the AFP is pro-technology and parents shouldn't be afraid of technology. Would you agree with that, or is it just more understanding how to navigate it in what is an increasingly an online environment we're facing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I 100% agree. It's here, the information, world that we live in is here to stay. We are social beings. We are even more online now due to COVID, because our circumstances have created that. And that's kept us in touch. It's made us feel connected to each other, connected to community, connected to family. So we need the online, world to as part of our, it's part of the fabric of our society now. So absolutely, it's just about being safe online and understanding the dangers that are out there. And as I said, understanding what platforms you're on and just what you can do to keep it safer and keep the, and keep the family contract going. Start the online safety learning early, as I say, as young as 4, ACE research tells us. And make that a normal conversation that you have going forward with your children into the future, because it's here to stay, and that it's not as you say, it's not a bad thing at all.
Fantastic. And I've actually just had one about someone who's been tuning in. Belinda has talked about party rooms. What's a party room?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. That's the chat functions that sit off to the side of the game, the one-on-one. You can go into those party rooms and talk privately. So that happens with all the gaming games that are out there. I mean, naming one is probably not the principle of what we're saying. So yeah, it's the same. It's going off into a private room on the gaming application. So we need to be vigilant. You need to review the chat logs, and that's part of the family social contract. That parents will review the chats and the games. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I think that's pretty much it, unless you have anything else you'd like to add or touch on before we wrap up for today.
I'd just say I wanted to highlight what I said before. We are here to help. Please err on the side of caution and report. We would rather see 1,000 reports that ended up not being child sexual abuse than what weren't. So please do that. Please log on to the ace.gov website for our resources and Think You Know, and access our online resources to make, to ensure the safe online environment.
Sure. And for anyone looking for those resources, we're also popping them in the comments now, so you can just have a look down there and have a squiz now if you like.
Yep.
And Yeah, well, Detective Superintendent Paula Hudson from the Australian Federal Police, thank you so much for joining us and chatting to us about all things child safety online today. And I really value your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on and shine the light on the issue. Very much appreciate that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.